Good evening, and welcome to the regular January 12th meeting of the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women. I want to wish everyone a very happy new year on behalf of the Commission. And as we begin 2009, we celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Commission. I hope it will be an exciting year with our focus on women's health. We hope to provide a monthly education and awareness presentation to women of our community on major health issues, and that's beginning tonight. And with that, Ms. Haddad, roll call, please.
Vice Chair Devine.
Here.
Commissioner Katafian. Commissioner Lamel.
Here.
Commissioner Malakian.
Here.
Commissioner Manasarian.
Here.
Commissioner Monokat.
Here.
Commissioner Pillsbury.
Here.
Commissioner Sobey.
Here.
Commissioner Walker.
Thank you. I guess you've noticed that we have a new commissioner on board. I would like to introduce tonight Linda Goodman-Pillsbury. She works as and volunteers here in Glendale among many different segments of the community. A graduate of Harvard and USC, Ms. Pillsbury is a licensed clinical social worker with a long and diverse background of service in our community. She is a volunteer therapist at Path Achieve and is also the chair of the Social Action Committee at Temple Sinai of Glendale. In the past, she has started a publishing company and for many years published award-winning books that helped parents deal with everyday problems. She wrote and published a book called Survival Tips for Working Moms, which helped parents balance the competing demands of work and family. I'd like to introduce Commissioner Linda Pillsbury. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. This brings together a variety of my interests. I'm most excited about this year of health and women's health with my work in the mental health area. I think we have a lot to do and we can do a lot together. I'm also very interested in the whole idea of bringing women from all walks of life together as we build community here in Glendale.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you, Commissioner Pillsbury. Next item.
Agenda item 2, introductions and presentations. Ms. Linda Burns is agenda item 2A. However, she is not able to attend, and I understand Commissioner Sobey is going to be making an announcement on her behalf.
The 46th annual Glendale Mayor Prayer Breakfast is going to be on Thursday, March 12th at the Glendale Civic Auditorium. Doors open 6 o'clock. The breakfast will feature actor, comedian, author, and motivational speaker Tom Dreesen. You can reach Doris Tweed at 818-248-7109 for tickets or contact the city clerk's office.
Thank you. I'd like to note for the record that Commissioner Katafian has arrived. Next item, please.
I'm honored to introduce and invite up to the podium Dr. Juanita Watts from Kaiser Permanente. I know Commissioner Lamel would like to do her introduction.
Yes. January is a month full of different health observations, and we have decided to recognize Cervical Health Awareness Month. And in honor of that, or to recognize that, Dr. Juanita Watts will be our presenter to talk about cervical cancer. And just a little bit about her, to know that her passion is advocating for women's health issues. She's a board-certified family practice physician at Kaiser Permanente's Glendale Medical Office in Southern California and has dedicated her medical career to the field of women's health. Her commitment to improving the lives of women is demonstrated by her tireless effort to increase awareness, eliminate barriers, provide health education, and implement prevention strategies. She has taken this role as the regional coordinator for women's health for Kaiser Permanente to our health care system, which serves more than 3 million members throughout Southern California, and her ongoing efforts to maintain excellent women's health care services. Her patients reflect the cultural and economic diversity of her community and the health issues facing women. She is an in-demand keynote speaker and frequent guest on television and radio programs with an emphasis on health. And her national television appearances did include Lifetime Television Speaking of Women's Health and CNN's special report Doctors Under the Knife. She's received many awards, including from the California State Assembly for Leadership in Women's Health, the AKA Sororities Health Management Award at their 100th anniversary celebration, and the California Black Women's Health Project Women Who Dare. And she was also named by Kaiser Permanente an Everyday Hero. So she is a dynamic woman, a graduate of the University of California in Irvine, a clinical associate professor of family medicine at the University of Southern California School of Medicine for the past 17 years. So we are proud to have someone as dynamic as Dr. Watts to talk to us today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And you know what? I must applaud this commission and the city of Glendale. No greater way to start your year than focusing on women's health. And I think if we can focus on women's health every year, it's a good, predictor for what the rest of the year. But my topic tonight is something that is very timely and very, very important for women for several reasons. My topic tonight, I'd like to talk about cervical cancer screening. And the reason that this is still an extremely important problem for women, and although I agree we may not see the greatest number of cases of cervical cancer, certainly I applaud the accomplishments and the advancements that we have seen in cervical cancer. So just to quickly review, we know that between 1955 and 1992, cervical cancer deaths dropped by over 74%, due to the implementation of the regular routine, as we've come to know it, Pap smear. That was phenomenal. And and when we look at this very important statistic, it is so important to understand that until that time, women were dying from something that we could treat. We can even diagnose this with a simple Pap smear before it even turned into cancer. And the reason that that is so important, it just really emphasizes the importance of preventive measures for women. Today, we see probably 11,000 cases of cervical cancer a year, and about 4,000 women still die of cervical cancer every year. I think it's also very interesting to note of the women that we do see dying of cervical cancer typically are in a lot of women that have not had access to this very important screening test. And when we look at all of the major female cancers with breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, the caveat and the advantage that we see with cervical cancer is that cervical cancer has a screening test, a very reliable screening test and tool that if we can get this access to women will really help us to diagnose and treat a problem that we can cure. We know that, like I said, 50% of women diagnosed with invasive cervical cancer had no history of being screened. That means that as we struggle to look at health care in our city and in the nation, it is really important that we really push and advocate that women have access to these very important screening exams. That's where we can make a difference. Some of the exciting research that we understand about cervical cancer is we now know what causes cervical cancer. Through many years of research, researchers have identified that cervical cancer is caused by a virus called the human papillomavirus, or better known as HPV. We know that HPV screening, that there are over 100 types of HPV viruses. And of the 100 types of viruses, 13 of them are considered high risk and associated with cervical cancer. The other ones are considered low risk and are not associated with causing cervical cancer. We know that most women within their lifetime will be exposed to some form of HPV, but their own immune system is able to squash it and somewhat control it. And so that just because you're diagnosed with HPV doesn't mean that you will develop it. Now, the exciting thing that I'm most excited about is that there is a new screening test. Now, as much as we need to continue to push and advocate for women's health, cervical cancer screening with Pap smears was created over 80 years ago. And I think we need to push to make sure it doesn't take another 80 years to get a test that will continue to advance our ability to diagnose women with these problems. But there is a new test on board for HPV. This is a test that is co-collected at the same time that a Pap smear is done. Now, what this means in very basic terms for women is that we now have a tool that will be able to help us to identify the women who are at the highest risk for developing cervical cancer. For years and years and years and decades, actually, we encourage women to come in every year to have their pap smear done. But now that we have this new tool available, we know that if we can identify the women that are at the highest risk, that we may screen them with more frequency. However, if a woman has a negative pap and a negative HPV, it basically means that you don't need to have a pap smear every year. You may be able to come in every 2 to 3 years and have your pap done. So that's very exciting. And I would think that my patients would be very excited that they don't need a pap. But what I'm finding is women are saying, are you sure I can get away with not having a pap every year? Because we've created a culture and a mindset. So I think it is really important to take advantage of these types of activities to educate women about some of these newer tests that are available and the frequency of the screening. We know that as women mature, for women over 65 years old, PAP is not necessarily recommended if you've had several normal PAP smears before that. So that's usually around the cutoff age. And adequate screening means that you've had 3 or more satisfactory PAP smears within the last 10 years. And for women that have had a hysterectomy, often there is a question, do I need to continue to have a pap smear after you've had a hysterectomy? Well, actually, you don't if the hysterectomy was done for benign reasons. A benign reason would be a fibroid uterus that was removed, or if you had developed a dysfunctional bleeding problem that had to be removed by doing a hysterectomy. Fortunately, if there are women who have had hysterectomies due to cervical cancer or ovarian cancer, a lot of times an OBGYN doctor may go in and do a pap smear from the lining or the cuff from where the surgery was done. So in those special cases, and that is a special case, they may continue to be screened to look for recurrent pathology. And if 3 negative PAPS results are recommended prior to discontinuing in women who have had a history of an abnormal pap smear before. So again, when a woman has had an abnormal pap smear, it is recommended that she is followed up with more frequency. That may be a repeat PAP that is done either at 6 months or either every year. Now, a persistent HPV infection is the single most important factor in cervical cancer. Again, when a test comes back positive for an HPV, it is not saying that you have cervical cancer at that time. What it actually means is that you've been identified with this high-risk virus, and because of that, we would like to screen you more frequently to make sure that this virus does not turn into cervical cancer. And what I think some women may not be clear on, HPV is sexually transmitted. It's probably the highest sexually transmitted infection that is available, and it can occur through sexual contact with a partner. It is harmless and it doesn't last very long. And again, most women who are identified with HPV, their own body's immunity is able to kind of squash it and make it go away. Again, lends itself for being able to needing to come back, to be rescreened and retested to make sure it's either present or gone away. And women that are test positive for HPV will not be diagnosed with cervical cancer. Again, cervical cancer is a very slow-growing virus and takes a while to develop. Now, some of you may have heard even of a lot of the recent media blitz that talks about the HPV vaccine or Gardasil. This is another advancement when we think about what we're trying to do in terms of preventive measures. The HPV vaccine is recommended in young girls, usually starting between 11 and 12 years old, and for women up to 26 that have not become sexually active. The HPV vaccine is recommended to hopefully prevent exposure to 4 HPV viruses, 2 that are considered low risk, 2 that are considered high risk. Of the 13 high risk HPV viruses, 4 of them are responsible for 70% of cervical cancer that we see. And with the HPV vaccine, it has 2 of the high risk viruses that are in the vaccine. The vaccine is given as a series of 3 shots that are spaced, one initially, one following a month, and the last shot 6 months later. And I think it will be very interesting as we continue to look at the HPV vaccine and rollout. We don't know exactly at this point how long it will protect people, but for now, it is recommended for young women in that group. And I think this is a great tool that families should consider for their daughters to help to protect them. Now, HPV, I've had patients that say, well, if it's good for my daughter, what about my son? Well, since it is sexually transmitted, I think that's a very good question. But the evidence to this point, the vaccine has not been really tested in males and therefore is not indicated to be given for young males or young men at this time. Again, it is licensed for to be given in young women between the ages as early as 9 up to age 26. So I think it'll be very interesting to look at the future data that comes in as we track the HPV vaccine. So my take-home message for this commission and for the city of Glendale and to all those that are listening is that Pap smear still makes a lot of sense. It's a preventive study. It's a preventive screening tool that makes a difference. In my opinion, no woman, absolutely no woman, should be dying from cervical cancer. Not when we've got this kind of technology to screen. And I think, if anything, we've really got to make an effort to continue to encourage women to get their appropriate screenings done, to embrace this newer technology, and to take very good care of themselves. Thank you very much for this opportunity to address this group on such an important talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Watts. It's a pleasure to have you here. Most of us have heard you speak on other occasions, and you're absolutely fabulous. Commissioners, do you have any questions
Just
for
one
Dr.
brief question, and you may have answered this, but why not the Gardasil for women over 26? Is that it's assumed they'll be going to their gynecologist OB on a regular basis?
Well, no. And we hope that women will, at various points, be going to get their gynecological exams. The reason for women under 26, first of all, with the vaccine, we're hoping to catch women before they become exposed to HPV. That's number one. So, I mean, it is indicated more for women that are not sexually active yet. Now, 26 is not a magic number, and certainly there are younger women who become active much younger than 26. Also, that there are some changes that do occur in the cervix that don't lend itself for screening after that. So say someone is not active and they're over 26, for where they looked at the parameters with the scientific evidence, that was the cutoff age that they were willing to look at. But and again, in terms of Pap smears, what we recommend in terms of Paps, that women do begin to get their Pap smear screenings for a couple of reasons. One, if they do become sexually active. Now, that's probably another visit for another talk when we talk about teens and sexual activity and the rates of chlamydia and the fact that chlamydia is at epidemic levels in the state of California, so that we know that as much as we don't encourage that there are a lot of teens that are sexually active, so that they are exposed. And so once a woman becomes sexually active, that would be important to begin getting your screening test for PAPs. And also, once women change sexual partners, it's very important that they come in and get screening, not necessarily with a PAP, but for PAP and STDs. But this shot is intended as preventative. So in order to prevent, we're trying to catch women before they become sexually active.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question as well. How can a male know if he has HPV, and what are the symptoms in women?
And what are the symptoms in women? That's an excellent question, because for women, we come from a culture of coming in to get our screening. Males may know that they have HPV or have a form of HPV by developing genital warts. A genital wart is a form of a virus. And a lot of times a woman may not know that she has HPV. It may not be anything that she feels. She may not have a discharge or anything. And so a lot of this is picked up on regular routine screening. So again, it emphasizes the point that you may not feel anything. You may not feel anything, and that's why it's so important to come in and have the test done. You may not present with any symptoms.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Comments? The teenagers have to have parental permission. They can't just walk into a doctor's office and request this, correct?
That is correct, and especially if it is a teen that is not sexually active yet, I think it's a very great opportunity for families, for parents, to begin to have these discussions. Some parents are not as comfortable with having that discussions. Absolutely, an HPV is not a green ticket to become sexually active because you'll be protected. But if we can begin to educate younger women about the importance of how they protect their own health at an early age, it would be very important. Yes?
What about the cost of Gardasil?
It's expensive. It's expensive. And, I think with time, as they look at how this is produced, that the cost will come down, but it is very expensive. The series of 3 is very expensive. But it may be worth it if it can prevent one case of cervical cancer.
Can you give us a price range?
Price ranges are usually around the $325 for the series of all 3 shots.
Not covered by insurance? Not covered.
Depends on what your insurance. At Kaiser Permanente, it's one of the covered benefits that we provide.
I just heard today on the news that the FDA has come out and they've extended this ban on the vaccine for people over 46 because they want more studies done and more statistics.
Right. And I think it'd be very interesting. Not only are they studying, looking at it in more mature women in their 40s, there are also some engaging studies and discussions about, well, what about males if women are exposed and they're sexually active? So how do we protect young men? I think it lends itself to a very detailed conversation that we need to have about safe sex at much earlier levels to empower, I think, our teens to make better decisions about what they're doing.
One more thing. So if a man or male has HPV, how does he get rid of it, or can he?
Well, if he has HPV and he has genital warts, certainly that can be treated. There's several techniques that we can use to treat it. It can be either burned off or it can be frozen off to destroy the cells. It can reoccur. Again, when a male has it, it's another opportunity to talk about safe sex and what does that really mean, and the proper use of condoms to protect themselves, and exposure potentially to a partner. So it can be treated if it's one of the low risks, and they may not know. But a wart you can see. It's very visible. It has a location, has a name and an address is what I say. So we can get rid of it and it can be treated, and then we can educate them about how to protect themselves.
And the treatment for women, Dr. Watts, is basically the same?
Can be the same thing if it's a low risk type, and then if it is a higher risk or HPV type, then that will go on to a different level of screening for women. They may go into an abnormal pap clinic. There's special studies and special dyes that they can place on the cervix to articulate exactly where the abnormal cells are. They may have those cells removed, or have a special procedure done and may be frozen. They may biopsy the area to get further study. They will take a look at the endocervical canal to see how extensive the cells go and to follow them up. So even with an abnormal pap, and even when we're able to identify it, there are steps that you would take after that to identify where the pathology is.
The importance is to have it diagnosed.
The importance is to have it diagnosed. If we can diagnose these problems, and if we can diagnose them sooner than later, it makes it a big difference. And the reason I'm so excited about this test, because we can diagnose this before this turns into anything. We can diagnose somebody who potentially just could be at higher risk. You don't have the disease. You may not have cervical cancer, but you may be at higher risk. And when you're at higher risk, we have an opportunity to change your behavior, to follow more closely, to prevent a problem. Again, no woman should be dying of cervical cancer. No woman. Even with the pap smears that were around for 80 years, it was phenomenal because we could identify an abnormal pap when cells were just inflamed, where they were just a little bit atypical and not even cancer. So this is it's a phenomenal tool, phenomenal advancement. And, I await with great anticipation to see how the future research holds for this. I mean, it's very exciting. 4,000 deaths a year may not sound like a lot, but no one should be dying of this. I'm looking forward to when we can say and report it's 400 deaths a year because everybody's getting screened and they understand the importance of this test.
Thank you very much, Dr. Watts, for kicking off our year of women's health. We appreciate you coming.
And I think you're going to have a great year because you started off right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item.
If it's okay with you, Chair, I'd like to read the agenda item 1A into the record, which is basically the report regarding the posting of the agenda was posted on or before January 9th for 2009. Next item is oral comment, and we have no cards.
No cards. Next item.
Consent items, agenda item 4. 4A, approval of the minutes of the commission meeting held December 8th, 2008.
Okay, do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes as posted? Do I have a motion to
I make a
approve
motion
the minutes?
that we approve the minutes.
I second. Unanimous consent on that?
Yes.
Next item, please.
Agenda 5A1, appointment of commission delegates and alternates for the National Association of Commissions for Women and the Association for California Commissions for Women for the term of January 2009 through December 2009.
Let's see, can you explain a little bit more about that, Ms. Haddad?
Absolutely. Since July 2004, the commission has been a member of in good faith of two professional organizations focused on the needs and supporting commissions for women. On the national level, that is NACW, which is the National Association of Commissions for Women. There is one annual business meeting that the delegate attends, or the alternate. For ACCW, that is the Association of California Commissions for Women, there are four quarterly meetings, two of which are held in Northern California, two of which in Southern California, and the alternate and the delegate attend in, actually, they're local, all commissioners are invited to attend, but if they're far away, then we have one delegate who goes, or if not, in her stead, would be an alternate to attend the business meeting and vote on behalf of the commission.
Okay. So I guess we can take this to this item is open for discussion, but we can take it in two different steps. One, we can adopt first the term limits. In the past, for those of you that aren't familiar, we have voted to have a one-year term limit. If you would like, according to this report, you can do it, there are a lot of different choices. We can do a longer term limit. It's open for discussion. How would you like to move on this? The term limits for the delegates.
I would like to suggest 1 year to give other people opportunity.
I agree with Commissioner Lamla. I think 1 year is a good term.
All right. Do I have a motion to that effect? Do we need a motion? No motion necessary. So for 1 year, delegate for the National Commission Convention and delegate for the California Commission. Okay. The next item in this topic is the volunteer for delegates. So let's take first the California Commission, and that would entail 4 meetings, 2 of which are in the south and 2 of which are up north. And do I have any volunteers for those delegate positions?
Are we just volunteering or motioning to appoint or to
volunteering as a delegate to California?
I'd be happy to.
Commissioner Walker
For the California.
for the ACCW. Okay. Anyone like to volunteer for the alternate delegate in case Commissioner Walker can't go?
I'll be
Someone
the
else?
alternate.
Okay, Commissioner Sobey, thank you. And now the national, the NACW, and this is really exciting because this convention is going to be held this year in Washington, D.C., and it should be really great. This is a terrific opportunity to learn from other commissioners all over the country what their programs are, and also to meet them. And I have to say, I met more commissioners from California when I attended last year's in Albuquerque. It was fantastic. So I encourage you to volunteer for this position. Do I have anyone that would like to volunteer for the delegate position?
Yes, I'd like to volunteer for that.
Commissioner Lamel. Okay, and alternate delegate?
I would like to be.
Commissioner Walker. Okay. And of course, being a delegate, being an alternate does not preclude you from going. You can, if Commissioner Lamel and you both want to go, you're more than welcome to go. It's just that you may somehow, incur some financial responsibility. Okay, and now we need a motion to accept these 2 delegates. Do I hear a motion to that effect? The 4 delegates, I'm sorry.
It's 2 delegates and 2 alternates.
Right.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion for the 2 delegates and the 2 alternates?
I so move.
Second? Sure. Second. Tefian. Do I have unanimous consent?
Yes.
Item, please. Thank you, ladies.
Agenda item 5A2, the Commission on the Status of Women Master Calendar of Events, with a motion providing direction regarding the master calendar.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank Commissioner Lamel for providing us with the monthly observances. That's going to be a big help in making appropriate presentations. Just like tonight, thank you for getting Dr. Watts. That was fantastic. And,
my pleasure.
Okay. So do we have any additions or changes to the calendar? Commissioners? If I hear no changes, do I have a motion to accept the calendar as is?
I so move.
Second?
I second.
That unanimous consent? Okay, next item. Ms. Haddad.
Excuse me, Chair Kerlin. Chair
Freudian slip.
Devine,
Okay,
yes.
that's okay.
Are we going to be posting this on the web? I think that would be a good idea.
Sure.
And then maybe eventually links to potential resources such as, Dr. Watts.
Are you referring to the calendar that the yearly?
The yearly calendar and also the calendar of health observances
Okay.
that Commissioner Lamel gave.
That actually is full of hyperlinks already, so
wonderful.
they just lead you to the.
Okay, good suggestion. Thank you.
And they'll take care of one of our strategic items
Okay,
in terms of expanded resources.
good. Yes, thank you for that suggestion.
I just have a couple of questions on the calendar. The NWSA annual conference, do we have a date on that? Oh, that's in June?
The NACW?
BSA is actually not
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's a professional organization that we used to be affiliated with.
Okay.
That's the National Women's Studies Association. It's not one that this commission attends.
Okay, I just wondered why it was on
I'll
the list.
be deleting it off the calendar. Thank you for catching
Okay. Well, the one in July, that's the NACW.
that. That's correct. That's Washington, D.C. We don't have a date yet.
You don't have a date. Okay.
Do we have the February date, Ms. Haddad? Is there?
I haven't received it from ACCW yet.
Okay, okay. So we'll look for those to come through and
Mhm.
the commissioners can
Is that the one we're
try to
hosting?
attend. Pardon?
Are we hosting the February or the May?
May.
May.
We'll be hosting, so
Oh,
the
I see
February
there.
will
Yes,
be
I'm
up
sorry.
north.
Okay.
Okay, next item, Ms. Haddad.
Agenda item 5A3, an update from the 5th Annual Jewels of Glendale 2009 Planning Committee, with a motion to provide direction to the committee and the task chairs for the 5th Annual Jewels of Glendale.
Okay, I would like to ask Commissioner Lamel and Commissioner Walker if either of you has a report on this luncheon.
I'll let Commissioner Walker begin, please.
Yeah. In terms of the auction items, I have started putting it in a database, and I've gotten some donations. So that's been really helpful. The individual donations are put in an Access database, and then from there on, we can put packages so that it's easy to keep track of what we have, and then we have the flexibility of bundling together auction items that we see fit. Okay, so that's one of the good things that I'm really happy I've started that work and feel accomplished in that sense. That will help us, Commissioner Sobey. And the other thing is that if you've received some donations for auctions, if you can submit the description to me, the suggested value, and I'll try to email to Ms. Haddad the basic information, just like what we did before, but as long as I get it started early, that will be really helpful, like who was the donor, and then the solicitor from our organization, so that we can keep track of who the contacts are internally. That, and we've gotten some donations for restaurants and restaurants and food. I was evaluating the silent auction report that Ms. Haddad sent us before, okay, and it seems that the restaurant, the food and beverage category is the one that really makes a lot of money. So I would really encourage us to really put forth effort in doing that. And I think it's really helpful because I'm evaluating and analyzing the discrepancies between the minimum bids and the actual bids. Okay, and the suggested retail price, and then again the actual price, and more or less based on my findings, we're getting about 50% of the value. Okay, so there's hardly not a lot over the 100% or within that percent, but that kind of like gives us an inkling of how much we're going to be making in terms of the auction. And the other thing is that, and then to just really make sure that we acknowledge even earlier on if you have donors for that you can give me so that we can acknowledge them February and then acknowledge them March, prior to the meetings. I think that would be a really good incentive. Anything else that you want to add?
From your experience with silent auctions, is a 50% turnout pretty average?
It's within that range. Yes.
And maybe one or two very high ticket items, maybe original items, could bring in more than that 50% rate.
Yes.
Ideally.
The things that really sell well are women items. The spas, the food, the restaurants, as I said. Things that didn't really go well would be, things for men.
Or like the professional sports memorabilia that we see so often at so many silent auctions.
Sometimes they do the Dodgers sold. But we have to make an adjustment because in the report, Ms. Haddad, it said that it didn't sell.
Oh.
Well, can I touch base with you after that?
Yes. Okay, and we've gotten high ticket price items like in the $250, $300 range. Commissioner Lamel was able to secure for us the jewelries and the spa package with the limousine, timeshares. And again, this year, Carl Walker and I will be donating this year a Hawaii timeshare. So.
That's nice.
Terrific.
Okay.
So that's for the auction.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Walker. We are working on the invitations, the save the date, as well as the program book, so we will have ad space for that available.
Save the date should be going out pretty quickly now.
It should
shouldn't it?
this month.
Oh, great.
Yes. Once we have it finalized,
Great.
then we'll have it submitted to Ms. Haddad to place. Are you doing the media buys, or would you like me to do that? I wasn't sure.
I believe you were planning on giving me an outline of the packet that you were offering the media and that you were going to be handling that. And actually, this week we're going to be sending out sponsorship packets. So do you still want to send out a save the date, even though the sponsorship packet is going out?
The save the date would be in the newspapers.
Oh.
Yes. And then flyers
So
throughout
as
the
an
city.
ad, not as a
As
mailer.
an ad,
Okay.
yes. And do we have a report from an additional?
Yes. Regarding the PR and the advertisement, I know we have a budget of about $2,500. Is it?
I didn't remember.
It was increased.
Publicity is 1,000.
Oh, 1,000. Probably I was thinking of,
So we're going to work within that
last
budget.
time, yeah. We need to start allocating and seeing, and then I think we also discussed the possibility of doing in-kind PR or advertisement. So
Yes. Media
it can be more
trades.
than that, yeah.
And I will be putting
In
together.
terms of the total value, but in terms of the expenditure that's actually going to be spent, we're staying within the $1,000 range. I would suggest also doing some posters, things that maybe that we can put in different areas or business establishments, the offices and so on. And I don't know how the group feels about that.
Well, I know, speaking of from the past experience that I've had, those never really got out to the community. A lot of times we spent money on not flyers, but posters.
Postcards.
Well,
Yes.
they would kind of not get out into the community. So if you want to do that
Yeah.
and spend money on that, we have to make a concerted effort to get it out there and make sure that we use them and they don't just...
The posters are different from the postcards because they're bigger, okay, and then
I'm sorry, but were you talking, you said
posters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
because
what
I know the postcards before then.
No,
But I'm talking about like an enlarged poster that I usually do with some of the community events, and those are really helpful because you only put one in like a central location or, vendors, partners that we have. And we need to identify maybe, I don't know, like 50 vendors, businesses, organizations, and then maybe put them there because it's more expensive.
Right.
Depending on the number. But instead of just the postcards, because the postcards we can replicate by email, but something that's visible, people can see it and, kind of be reminded they don't have anything to be carrying around.
Well, I know that they are expensive. And do you want to add something, Ms. Haddad?
Well, there is a budget for graphics of $1,000, and I have a couple good sources for producing high-quality graphics that are like that. We obviously need to get the design worked out, so maybe we can touch base after on that detail. But we have a really good working relationship with the Downtown Glendale Merchants Association. If we work with them, I'm sure they can get us at
Excellent,
least down
yeah.
on Brand Boulevard. We can talk to the vendors at the Americana, everybody here is familiar with.
The Galleria.
The Galleria, but also there's, in terms of the Chambers of Commerce,
Yes,
we could also
uh-huh.
talk maybe there and then
Montrose.
distribute, well,
Then I'll
Montrose,
do the Montrose.
right? And then
Chamber of
there's
Commerce.
also Adams Square, so that you
Excellent,
have another
yeah.
option as well.
So maybe if we can identify, Ms. Haddad seems to have a good grasp of these different, associations, business associations. I'll take care of the Montrose. It's near my place. And then maybe if we have like a contact person for each of those organizations. And there's also the business associations, the Glendale Latino, the Armenian Chamber of Commerce, Phil-Am Business Association, Korean Chamber of Commerce. So I can handle the Phil-Am and the Korean Chamber of Commerce. Does anyone want to do the Armenian?
I'll do the Armenian.
Okay.
And I'll contact the Glendale Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, great. And then the Glendale Latino?
I can do that.
Okay. Leave the Sir Optimist as well?
Sure.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Well,
if we just give them one, and then I'm sure like the Armenian Chamber of Commerce, they're having a mixer at Embassy Suites. So if we have one there, that would be.
I think the most important thing is if we spend the money on the posters, that we be sure that they reach the community. And that's the
Exactly.
most important. That's the bottom line.
I think that's why if we have
Idea.
one, coordinating person to cover like a segment or an area, then we know that that's being taken care of, and it's more focused that way.
And you'll handle the
I would-
coordination of all of the...
Yeah, I'll coordinate it through Ms. Haddad with preliminary those different organizations that I mentioned and the potential leads, and then she and I can, flush out the details of if there are other organizations. Is that
Of course,
okay?
that sounds great.
And then I will, to save on the graphics design, I'll take care of the graphics
We're
design.
counting on that.
Yes. And then also get some additional quotations for poster printing, and maybe if we can get it comped, the better.
Great.
But I think the poster, because I've been thinking about it, the poster would really be a good PR marketing for us.
I do have a contact. I can get at least 10 posters done for free.
Oh,
At least 10, yes.
We're going to be accused of being great party planners again. That's awfully organized.
Let's not go there.
Organized. Okay, that's one of the key things, and creative.
Okay, the object here is to okay the budget.
No, that was done at December. This is just direction,
Okay,
no motion needed.
So
Okay.
just flushing out the details.
Okay, all right.
Anything else, Commissioner Lamel, regarding the PR and the marketing? I think we need to start.
Press releases will
Yes.
be written, media advisories. Media advisories that actually don't go out until March, but press releases can go out beginning this month, and we'll just upgrade as we bring in more sponsors and other newsworthy information comes up.
Ms. Haddad?
Just one, a press release did go out requesting the Jewels of Glendale nomination forms be submitted by January 31.
Did see that.
So that's going to be in the papers hopefully soon.
And Ms. Haddad, can you explain the award and the purpose and eligibility so that everyone out there knows how to nominate for the Jewels of Glendale Award?
Of course.
And just before that, can we also have the press release sent out in the city news service? It's a free service. I can provide you that information.
That's fine.
They could go on a newswire
The Jewels of Glendale Award was established by the Commission in 2005 for the Jewels of Glendale with the intent of recognizing women who normally go unnoticed in the public sphere. There's a lot of women who do sort of the awards circuit in the community, and there are so many women who do so much good work who really fly under the radar. So this year, the Commission once again has put out an invitation and the purpose of the award, and I'm just going to read from the nomination form, is to recognize, honor, and raise the visibility of outstanding Glendale women who have, through strength, courage, and persistence, overcome hardship of any sort, whether that's physical, financial, or emotional, to become strong, positive role models for their community. In addition to that, we have 2 honorary Jewels of Glendale, the Assembly Majority Leader, the Honorable Karen Bass, and also Molly Barker, who is the founder and vision keeper of Girls on the Run, which is a signature program for this commission. Excited about those outstanding honorees, and then we're also looking forward to getting some fantastic local women recognized as well.
And to get the applications for the nominees?
People can contact me directly at 548-4844. You can download it off the web at our city website /women, or you can just write in or contact any one of the commissioners if they have any contacts with you.
And speaking of the Jewels of Glendale, it is our intent as well to increase the number of applicants for this year, and that will be part of meshing it in with our strategic plan in terms of our measurable results, in terms of increasing that number. So if we, for each of those segments or organizations that we're going to be sending out the posters, maybe also communicate with them. The Jewels of Glendale have been trying to contact the different organizations to at least submit one application for their organization. I think that will be really helpful.
Any other comments or discussion on this item?
And we have the committee for the Jewels of Glendale applications review committee. Do we already have that?
That wasn't a task that was decided by the commission when they set up this back in, I think it was September, that you guys assigned task leads. Pardon me for the you guys. I do believe that in the previous years it's been the co-chairs or the chair and the vice chair of the commission who have decided on the awardees. So you could take that up in the February meeting and give direction as to how you would like that handled.
Okay. Commissioner Manasarian has a report as well on
Right.
sponsorships.
I've contacted several corporations here in the community, and I've gotten really positive responses, so I'm looking forward to sending them packages for sponsorships. And I've also spoken with the commissioners and their contacts from last year, so we will also be contacting the sponsors from last year and getting them on board as well. So yeah, I think we're pretty much set to go, and I'm very excited to get the packages, and some of them I'm going to contact personally, so look forward to the package.
Okay. So we want to remind everybody that the Jewels of Glendale Luncheon is on March 26th, and it will be at Anoush on Glen Oaks Boulevard. If you'd like to buy a ticket or make a reservation, please call Ms. Haddad at 548-4844, and hope to see a lot of you there on the 26th. Thank you.
Commissioner Devine, I just wanted to double check with regards to the swag also. Is there any update if you've gotten, or maybe if we can also check from donations from last time to just remind the commission.
Okay.
Is there any update on the swags?
That would be Commissioner Katefian.
Excuse me. Gift bags.
Do you have any information on the gift bags? No? Okay.
Was absence
Okay.
last time?
And maybe what
Okay.
we can do is to start ordering some of those bags and, the stuffing, because those take time.
Last year, I remember I remember when we were at Linda was the lady.
Lisa's
Commissioner
house. No, it was done in my house, and it was a lot of work. So, that's one of the suggestions that I have, is that we order the bags decide on the color. I think we have some of the colors that we can pull out from the poster that I've designed, and then the tissues, and just start, laying them out.
Perhaps you and Commissioner Lamel can meet with Commissioner Katefian and
Yes.
is that okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we decide on the colors of the bag, I may have someone that may donate.
Oh, yeah, good.
Possible, yes.
And then maybe put their imprint as
Yes,
part of the.
of course.
Yeah.
Mhm.
More or less, what was the quantity of the bags and what were the sizes of those?
Average size gift bag.
8.5 by 11, something like that. Yeah. Or is it the 5 by 6? We got the.
Called a cub bag. It's
Yeah.
the one that's half of a width of a sheet of paper and about
Okay.
8 inches tall or so.
Okay. Any other discussion?
That. And I'm also looking at the budget here. Just double checking the parking. I know last year we did pay for the parking at the Oakmont Country Club, and we're paying the same thing, Commissioner Lamel.
I
We have a
think
budget of $750. Do we pay for it, or
when
the guests pay for it?
there is a charge, and I was hoping we could negotiate that with Anush. And I was not part of the negotiation part of that. I'm not sure how the contract has been formed. Sadat?
The $750 actually will cover, only a part of it will be spent on security, but I think that there is, won't be, each guest will pay $6 for valet parking.
But we have another line item for
Yeah,
security.
the $750,
And
will not
$360
be-
for security?
right, the $360 is for security, the $750, you can just cut that from the budget.
Oh, okay, so we have a more or less $750 cushion?
Well, if you left it to me, I would say pretend like it wasn't there and cancel $750 from the expenses. Save it, in other words, not look at it as a flexible expense, but just eliminate it from the line item so that you're not looking at it as another $750 to spend.
I know. Okay, and last time the performer, did we spend $500?
It wasn't quite, I don't think it was quite that, but
I think 250.
that was really
Oh, it's
extreme favor, and that would not be the case this time.
Mm.
For any performer, really, we want quality. I think that this is a good amount.
So this time we're going to stick with the
Yes.
audit amount? Okay.
Mhm.
Photographer, it can be comped. If it's comped, then we can get that as one of our line item that we can.
Like a sponsor?
Yeah.
That would be great.
I will, if I could.
Sure.
This budget was approved in the December meeting, and so these questions weren't answered then for you, Commissioner Walker?
No, what I'm doing is that I know that they were approved, but I'm trying to gauge where we have in terms of the flexibility, which can be comped, and get input from the other commissioners as well.
One thing I would just caution the commission about is when you get a service donated or comped to the commission, that somehow it doesn't, you don't have the same level of direction with a person who is donating their services as you would with somebody whose services you were paying for. So I would say that for a photographer, if we can find somebody who's comped, that we are very clear about the kind of pictures we're looking for. You'll notice the pictures from last year are not yet posted on our website because we're having some difficulty getting pictures that are really relevant to the community to see sort of what the event was about. He did some wonderful portraiture, but it's not images that would be necessarily useful for advertising our particular event. And that's kind of what that line item is there for, so that we can hire professional services to do that portion of event photography, not just portrait photography, which was more along the lines of what we were getting.
Then maybe Commissioner Lamel and I can sit down with you and look at, the CD collection, because there's several there that are like, group shots and individual, because I don't know what you're looking for in terms of,
What I would have been looking for is pictures of the keynote speakers, pictures of the awardees, pictures of the general layout of the room with large group shots, not necessarily tables of people. Groups of organizations are fine, but that's not the focus is on the awardees and not on the people attending necessarily. Like, it's wonderful to recognize our sponsors, and they're recognized in a multitude of spaces. But in an event to go on the website, what we really want to show is the women who were awarded and the speaker and the commissioners, and not necessarily, certain groups of friends who are there visiting for the event, for a good lunch and an event.
Okay, so let's stay on track on that. What we will do, and what I have done in the past when I work with photographers, is create a shot list of what we want. So that photographer, whether it's comped or not, they can follow direction if they're given direction.
That's right.
And if there was no direction given, then we got what a normal photographer would do, and that's to capture the essence. Now, if we want to have something a little more structured, I welcome the commissioners to provide me some ideas of what they would like, but I would know what is good photos for press. And that's the type of photos I would be looking for. And of course, Commissioner Sobey would be a great guidance to that as well, of what the Glendale News Press would like to see. So we will do that. We'll make sure.
Perfect.
And then we'll keep that on file for future, because it would be basically the same every year.
The Glendale News Press wants the guests.
Yeah.
Yes, they like guests, and
So a little different from what you're looking for.
So we'll work to make sure everybody is happy and gets what they want, because there should be no reason we can't get at least 100 good shots.
Yeah, and in that CD that we have, I'm sure, there's several shots there that we can post so that people can see what happened in the past, so that they have an inkling of, this is really a wonderful event, well planned, the auction items at this place were really excellent. And that.
I think it's a good idea if you get together with Ms. Haddad and go through them and pick out a few that we can put on our website, and
Exactly.
so people can see what went on.
So we'll have like a subcommittee to kind of just look at those pictures and assist Ms. Haddad to update the web.
Sure.
Wonderful. Okay.
Okay. In terms of the prices, Ms. Haddad, can you explain the prices? Is that the gifts for the awardees?
Right. The prizes?
I'm looking at the budget, the $600.
The glass award that we give. And then also a separate item is that what we do is we give a gift to the keynote speakers. So there's all of that's included in that budget.
And is that more or less how much we spent last time?
The about 150 apiece? Yeah.
Okay. And because there's another $200 gift for the keynote, so a total of $800. Is that it?
Well, these two keynotes are also honorary jewels of Glendale this year. So we're accommodating that addition to the budget.
Because last year we had several awardees, I think. 3 awardees last year. Okay, and then the graphics here, if I do the graphics, is that something that we can save money on?
You want to print the posters, though, right?
Yes. So
Posters will come
graphics
out
is
of
not
that.
just graphics design, but also printing?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's printing. Okay, thank you. That clarifies.
Welcome.
Any other comments?
I had one thought on the gift bags. If you said it was a lot of work to put them together, what about using the students? They might be able to get a whole class full of kids to, have a party and put them all together.
Ms. Walker,
We did.
Commissioner Walker, didn't you do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
She had-
Yeah, but it's just that if the swag items trickle and they're not, all together in the same number, it kind of, it's hard. It's better that you designate, we need 400 items of each one, okay? And then you do it like as a mechanical
assembly line.
Okay. Any other
But students
discussion?
we're looking forward to working with our student ex officials.
Yes.
Swag party.
Yeah, that's my type of party.
Send it out. Put it in your MySpace.
You can bring your friends. Next item, Ms. Haddad.
Next item on the agenda is Agenda 5B, reports only, update on the GUSD Yellow Ribbon Week activities. Just wanted to provide for the commission the update on the expenditures for the HANDS project. Although we'd approved an expense of $3,500, we had such an overwhelming response, and the posters cost a little bit more, and we weren't able to negotiate those down any more than we did. So the actual total is $4,040, which is an increase of 15% over our allocated amount. So basically just wanted to bring that up, and then pay special attention to our buttons. This is what is part of what's going to be going to the school is some stickers and all the hard posters for all of the schools in the district, plus the administration building. We're excited about that.
Right. And I wanted to explain this program just very briefly to those that aren't familiar with it so that you know what is happening and for all of our students in the Glendale Unified School District. During this week, the teachers take the responsibility of, and they've asked for that responsibility, by the way, they love this program, to use this little pledge in their classrooms to teach children not to abuse themselves or others. And the pledge, what happens is they put their hand on the paper and then they sign their name and they take the pledge. I will not use my hands or my words for hurting myself or others. And this is going to go into the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools. We are wearing the pins, and some of the children will get them. We have the little bears, and I have had the occasion to have parents take the pledge with their son or their daughter, and it's a fabulous program, and we get a lot of good feedback from the community. So that, in essence, is our Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting program. Any discussion, ladies?
Chair Devine, is it possible to get maybe some like montage of some of the hands that's been done in the past year and include that in our program book?
Well, I know, you mean in our, what program book are you?
For the Jewels of Glendale.
Oh, well, I know we have some great pictures from the news press that have been printed,
good.
and we might be able to use one of those in the book.
But I think that'll be great to
gotten some
highlight
good-
some of the actual student work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Work on that. Any other comments from the commissioners?
I had a comment. I think that this is a great program. We've been doing it for many years. Oh, I think it's the third year, right? Fourth year we're doing it. Except I've been in the community and talking about the yellow ribbon, and not very many people in the community are aware that our commission has been the pioneer in this program. So I think that one of the good things we could do is maybe present this to the school board as a program that we started, or I'm going to present it to the PTA as a council member that, our commission has sponsored this, and I think that the community needs to be more aware that, we started this program, which is a great program, and that they can also support it as we go.
Very good.
So that's just a comment.
Wonderful.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Commissioner Manasarian, because in terms of, the budget cuts and all that, and in terms of viability of, different organizations and so on, I think the more that we can advertise and market ourselves in terms of what we do, to keep us out there in the community, I think that will really be helpful.
Agree. Or we can talk up our programs, the better it is. And I know that they're appreciated in the community by those who know about them.
Yeah.
And I think the more that know about them, the better. So we'll all have to make a good effort.
Yes, we got to toot our own horns.
Exactly, right. Yes, and it is an excellent program. Next item.
Agenda item 6, commissioner and staff comments.
Okay, I'll ask the commissioners if they have any comments. Shall we start with Commissioner Katefian?
Yes, it happened that I missed 2 meetings, and I'm back to work. And I hope 2009 will be a better year for everybody, and we'll perform our duties in a more responsive way, including myself, because I was absent for twice. So at the same time, I just present my wishes for the New Year and Christmas. And I hope this year will be a happy, healthy, and successful year for everybody and all our commissioners, including their families.
Commissioner Lamel?
Say Happy New Year and welcome again to our new Commissioner Pillsbury. Glad to have you aboard, and also to recognize that next Monday is going to be Martin Luther King Day, and it's a day of service, so hopefully we'll all volunteer some way and to commemorate that, as well as Tuesday's inauguration that I hope everyone will watch. I will be fortunate to be there, so I'm excited about the moment, but not about the weather.
Commissioner Manasari?
Sure, I'd like to welcome also Commissioner Pillsbury. Welcome to our group. We'll have a very successful year, I hope, with everybody else in the commission. Also, I'd like to congratulate our student commissioner, Talar Malakian, for obtaining a certificate of completion of the internship program from ANC of Glendale, and she was presented this certificate on January 8th in a banquet, so I wanted to congratulate you. We're very proud of you. There were 3 commissioners there invited, and I just wanted to really congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
That accomplishment. Also, I wanted to announce the Rotary Gala, which is going to be on February 8th of 2008 this year, next month. And it's a Sunday afternoon at Glendale Hilton. And the theme of the gala is going to be Women in Rotary. So I encourage everyone to attend. And I will give Ms. Haddad the information, and you can contact Ms. Haddad as well. Again, the theme is going to be Women in Rotary, and I encourage everyone to attend this wonderful program.
The lunch?
It's actually a dinner. It's at around 5:30 start. The tickets are $85, and they're going to be $100 if they're purchased later. But for now, it's $85. So get the bargain.
Thank you. Mr. Pillsbury?
I just want to say how happy I am to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you and with all of you out there to be part of all of these wonderful activities.
Mr. Sobey?
I wanted to welcome personally Commissioner Pillsbury, welcome aboard, and remind everybody about the Mayor prayer breakfast on Thursday, March 12th, 6 a.m. And I wanted to wish everybody a healthy and prosperous 2009.
Commissioner Walker?
Same thing here. Welcome to Commissioner Pillsbury, and we look forward to working with you and getting to know you and utilizing your talents to help our community and the commission. And also, we're excited to have our health calendar, and the focus this year being women's health issue under the leadership of Chair Devine. So we're looking forward to engaging our community in terms of getting additional guest speakers, getting feedback from the community as to how we can really better serve you, especially in terms of this endeavor.
Commissioner Malakian?
I had a question about the tickets for the Jewels of Glendale. Do we know how much the tickets are going to be?
Tickets will be
The jewel
$75.
ticket is $75.
Okay.
And the student price is $25.
$35.
You have a student price, $35.
Okay.
So if you have friends that want to come. We also have scholarships or grants available for
underwriting.
students to come as well.
And do we have to nominate those people for the grants, or?
No, actually they're not grants. They're just people that sponsor
Underwrite.
a student. Yes.
Okay.
And you can just we'll have a certain number of them. And usually what we do is we invite graduates of Rosie Goes to Wall Street or our leadership circle, young women.
And probably our past student ex-officials.
Good. Exactly.
And I wanted to say thank you to Ms. Watts, because I really enjoyed her presentation on cervical cancer. A lot of the things she talked about I wasn't very informed about, and it's nice to know that, she came over here and spoke to us about that.
Commissioner Maricutt?
Hi, it's nice to kick off the year with you guys. Nice to see all of your faces, and similar to Talar, I thought the cervical cancer presentation, though it just hit me with reality that it could actually occur to anyone. I mean, I don't really get informed about these things on a daily basis, so it was really helpful. And I really look forward to working with you guys for all these projects. I'm a really hands-on kind of person, so it would be nice to utilize all my artistic or whatever skills that I may have or may not have. I don't know, but we'll put them to the test. So it's nice to see you guys.
Likewise, I'm sure. The most impressive thing to me is the fact that with Dr. Watts here tonight, that the two of you have learned something, and that above all is what we are here for, is for young women and women out there to learn about themselves and their health. And I'm just pleased. Thank you so much. I have an announcement. Staff, does staff have any comments?
I just wanted to note that every time I hear Dr. Watts speak, I learn something new, so it doesn't stop just if you turn 21.
Sure.
I do want to say, as the Year of Women's Health, that in March, again, will be our Downtown Dash to raise money for the Glendale Adventist Stroke Center. And once again, there's a training program Sunday mornings. This year, it's going to be at the Chess Park from 8 to 9:30. You could park for free at that time in the Orange Street parking garage, and then just meet in the Chess Park for the run or walk.
Could we still attend,
Of
even though
course.
we missed the first? I think there was a training already.
There was. Sunday was the kickoff. It's $20 for the rest of the session, which is 7 more weeks before the race. Thank you.
Right. I would like to close the meeting by, first of all, congratulating Commissioner Manasarian for being selected by the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors and the County Commission on the Status of Women as one of 6 award recipients at their 24th Annual Women of the Year Luncheon. That's quite an accomplishment. The award is given to women who have worked to bring about social and economic change, who have been good role models in their communities, and who have worked on behalf of women's issues and demonstrated outstanding performance when their professions, in their professions and advocating for women's rights. So congratulations, Commissioner Manasarian. We all have to go on March 16th to the award ceremony at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. She was nominated by Supervisor Antonovich's office, so congratulations.
What time is that?
It's at 11.
11 o'clock, 11 a.m. in the morning. And secondly, I'd like to invite everyone to watch former president of the school board and current school board member Greg Krikorian's talk show on January 21st. That's a Wednesday evening on channel 280. I'm going to be on with Dr. Carol Ann Burton. She's the president of the YWCA board of directors, and we're going to be discussing different resources and programs available to women in Glendale dealing with health issues and resources for domestic violence awareness. The program usually airs at 9:30, but as of this date, we are not sure. It may be on at 7:30, so I ask that you check with your TV schedules. And don't forget to get your tickets for the luncheon, March 26th. Please call 548-4844. And with that, may I have a motion for adjournment?
A motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:45.